Good afternoon, everybody. It's David Schlotthauer here with another detailed tropical weather outlook and discussion for Tuesday, September the 9th, 2025. In today's tropical weather update, I'm going to explain on why the peak of the Atlantic hurricane season, which is typically extremely active, is utterly quiet. So in this update, we'll explain that and all when I think the Atlantic is going to get much busier, especially by late September into early October. So with that being said, let's take a look now at the deep tropical Atlantic here across the main development region, including for the Caribbean and the Gulf, because there is not a whole lot to talk about, although there is a tropical wave that we are watching a bit closely here that the NHC has not highlighted yet, and I don't think they will anytime soon, all thanks to a very unfavorable background state of the atmosphere. We got another tropical wave that's going to be developing and moving off of Africa in the next few days that we will need to watch down the road, perhaps by the latter part of September into early October. But in the meantime, we have a lot of this really dry, stable Saharan air that is in place because the background state, we're seeing a lot of subsidence. The air is warming and it is drying as it sinks, and that prevents any convection here. And it also allows a lot of anticyclonic wave breaking activity. We have a lot of TUT activity as well. We have a TUT cell over here. We have another TUT cell over here. So all in all, we're getting a lot of vertical wind shear that is developing here in the subtropical and the deep tropical Atlantic. And speaking of deep layer vertical wind shear out there across the subtropical Atlantic, all thanks to the University of Wisconsin making these images publicly available, and we can see clearly how strong the vertical wind shear is out there across the subtropical Atlantic. Take note, all of this red ribbon here indicating that vertical wind shear is on the order of 30 to 45 to even 50 knots, which is extremely hostile for any tropical wave to thrive within, because a lot of its heat of these tropical waves that do try to develop, all their heat is blown to one direction. It's not allowed to breathe equally surrounding the system, helping to cause a lot of diffluence aloft, allowing that convergence to form underneath it. So a lot of this vertical wind shear is preventing any development at this time. Despite that the vertical wind shear is light down here and it is light down here, there's also a lot of dry air, a lot of subsidence that is preventing anything to develop at this given time. And yes, you heard me say it, there is a lot of dry air down here in the deep tropical in the main development region of the Atlantic. We also have a little bit of dry air moving across the Caribbean. So again, keeping things really from developing as of the 9th of September. Tomorrow's the peak of hurricane season, folks. Climatological speaking, we should see a lot of activity, and we are not. This is the second or third or fourth year in a row where we are seeing a very inactive historical peak to the hurricane season, which we should see a lot of activity. But because of all this dry air, that's just not allowing the Atlantic to really thrive very well with a lot of tropical activity. And because of this, the latest 7-day graphical tropical weather outlook from the National Hurricane Center in Miami, Florida, does not have any outlook highlighted at all for the Gulf, for the Caribbean, for the main development region, as well as for the subtropical region over the next 7 days. So we are looking really, really good as far as the tropics go, nice and quiet. If you're doing any vacationing over the next 7 days, this is the time to do it, because there is nothing to really worry about out there in the deep tropical Atlantic for the time being. But that's not going to last for too much longer, according to the Climate Prediction Center at their Global Tropics Hazards Outlook here, highlighting a 20 to 40% chance of tropical development here across the main development region of the Atlantic, including for the northwestern Caribbean and the southern half there of the Gulf, including for the eastern Pacific, where there is a 60%, that's a high chance of tropical development between September the 17th and the 23rd. Then, of course, as we go into week number 3 to end out September here on the 24th through the 30th, there is a low chance of tropical development here. So the chances of development actually decrease a little bit here versus with what we're seeing on the 17th and the 23rd, including those chances to remain about the same across the northwestern Caribbean into the southern half of the Gulf during this period of time. So right now we are not seeing overwhelming outlooks here of a likelihood that we will see significant development, which is great news here. Just something to really monitor throughout the end of the month. So with that in mind, let's take a look now at your latest global deterministic models here from the Euro and the GFS model, and then we'll be looking at our environmental forecast because there is a reasoning why the models are not too enthused about the tropics as of late. So with that being said, let's first take a look here at the European deterministic model for this afternoon. And you can see there is our weak tropical wave reflected there on the 850 millibar cyclonic relative vorticity plot. We have another tropical wave here, more broader in nature, that has moved off of Africa. And then we have another one tucked way back in here off the side of the screen across the central portion of Africa. And then here is your very strong Azores Bermuda high locked and loaded here across much of the subtropical Atlantic. So now that you know what to look for, let's put this into motion because there are some signs, not very likely here, but there are some signs that the tropics do look to wake up around the 19th and the 20th of September as we move forward here. So we're going to just fast forward, of course, because again, there's not really much to really monitor, but there is this tropical wave that we will be watching over the next week or so. It looks very weak, not much reflection in the European model. And going out to 10 days, you can see that broadening of circulation there with that tropical wave looks to strengthen a little bit more, especially by Friday morning and beyond. About the 19th and the 20th of September, it looks like we could get something out of that, but the chances of that developing right now do not look very high according to the European model and its AI model that continue to show very little in the way of development with that tropical wave. Then there's another tropical wave that comes off of Africa. There's also a very low likelihood that would also develop into anything major at this given time. And just like I did in yesterday's video, we're going to go way out in time because there's really nothing to really watch very closely. And you can see by the time we go out to about Monday morning, 312 hours out. So this is about day 12 and day 13, you can see there is that subtropical-like system. I mean, that would be a 35 to 40 mile an hour tropical system at the very most, but very, very, very low chances of that developing for the time being. Here comes another tropical wave again that comes off of Africa later on in the period, but anything beyond 10 days, folks, please take it with a grain of salt, especially with what we just saw with 91L nearly a week ago, that it showed, oh, there will be some development with it. It doesn't look like it never was able to develop because of the hostile-like conditions. And then going out to 360 hours through the 24th of September, there's your subtropical system moving well into the westerlies, so not going to be a big problem at all. And then, of course, there's your tropical wave, and just really a very anemic look out there in the tropical Atlantic. All right, and in my honest opinion, this would be very remarkable. This would be something that we have not seen in satellite era for one of the most inactive Septembers ever on record. So now looking at the GFS model, what does the GFS have to say about all of this? Well, moving forward over the next week or so, the next 7 days, we have a little bit of mischief that happens over here, but any development that does occur would be offshore and would likely move out to the northeast. Here's our next tropical wave that does try to come off of Africa and does try to get its act together. But because of that dry, stable air, that tropical wave fizzles out. It really does. It doesn't get its act together and it's not able to consolidate. So out to 10 days here on the GFS through the 19th of September, we have a tropical wave here. We have a little bit of a weak reflection there. Another bit of activity coming off of Africa. But again, very, very anemic signal here. We barely have anything here in the Gulf or the Northwestern Caribbean where there's a mixed signal there of potential development that looks extremely low and very unlikely at this present time. And then going beyond that time frame, I mean, geez, very, very hostile here. You got a very big upper level trough here in the mid levels, in the low levels, in the subtropical Atlantic. You name it, there's going to be a lot of vertical wind shear out of this in the deep tropical Atlantic here out to about September the 25th. And if we look at prior model runs, you can see things are going back and forth. So we really don't know exactly how this is all going to pan out. But if we do look at the GEFS ensemble forecast, we can see vertical wind shear here is going to be rather strong in a certain degree. If we actually take a look at the 5-day averages, you can see still a lot of strong vertical wind shear across the subtropical region, across the northern Gulf, and lighter than normal vertical wind shear here across the Caribbean. This would suggest more anticyclonic wave breaking activity. You could even see the ridge over here. So you try to get these tuts that pinch off and then they try to retrograde underneath that upper level ridge like pattern. So remaining quite hostile at least over the next week or so, possibly by the end of September. We could extend this even further out. And speaking of that hostile environment, here's one way to put it. Look at all this dry air that is in place, known as the Saharan air layer. This is initially out from the Euro, showing all this dry air. So that is why the background state is not ideal here. And people still on YouTube think that, oh, we're going to see a very busy late September, possibly hyperactive major development. I mean, the way the pattern looks right now, it does not look like it's going to change that quickly. You never know. You know, there could be a lot of surprises, but look at this. This is from the Euro. Look at how much dry air there is here out in the subtropical and the deep tropical Atlantic. Lots of dry air here, lots of dry air here on the European model across the Gulf. I mean, really, like... This is as stable as you can get potentially for mid to late September, which is historically the most active month in the tropics, typically for a lot of hurricanes, a lot of tropical systems. And it is looking really, really dry. On top of that, we're looking at a lot of vertical wind shear, and you can see why here. Look at this. This strip of red here indicates a lot of vertical wind shear on the order of 25 to 40 knots, perhaps 50 knots. So as we go forward and forward, and for those that are watching this video, I do not sound disappointed at all. I'm sure a lot of forecasters out there are disappointed because it's like, geez, we were all predicting a very busy September here, and here we are, and we're not seeing a whole lot. So everybody's shaking their head like, what's going on? Why is it very inactive? So there may be a little bit of disappointment, not wishing for hurricanes or anything, but when you make a forecast months out and you predict a very busy hurricane season, and look at what you get. You don't get much out there at all. Only 6 named storms for this season. I would say people are going to be disappointed by this. I'm a little disappointed because it's like, we have everything there. We have the sea surface temperatures. Everything is lined up. But what we're missing here is the atmospheric setup is just not ideal this year, in other words. So putting this into motion over the next 5 to 7 days here, you can see vertical wind shear is just literally... I mean, come on. Very, very hostile out there. Lots of tut activity. Here's a tut. Here's another tut getting ready to retrograde. It's just, and here's a little bit of a tut-like future. So you can see vertical wind shear in the Caribbean over 20 to 25 knots, over 30 to 40 knots out here in the main development region. Just not ideal. All right, other YouTubers are going to say otherwise, but in my opinion here, I've been doing this for over 4 to 5 years. I know what I'm looking for, and this is not favorable, really at all, for any development. And because of that, when we take a look at our latest 12Z European model ensembles here as of September the 9th, so you can see the date up here, this is new. This was just released a little bit ago, and we can see most of the ensembles from the Euro do indicate that there will be some tropical development around the 19th and the 20th of September here. I really have my doubts on this because of the background state that we're seeing, lots of dry air. I think this is another false signal. I am not saying 100% that this is a false signal, but we saw it with 91L, folks. We all thought that, oh, all the ensembles are showing this to become our next hurricane or tropical storm. Just kidding. It's gone. It's not even there to track. So that is why I am not raising the alarm bell despite the ensemble model signals that we're seeing from the Euro that show a tropical depression or storm. Other YouTubers will take this seriously and be like, oh, here comes another tropical wave that is going to become our next tropical storm. I'm going to wait a little bit more cautiously because of the background state that we're seeing. Looking at the GEFS ensemble forecast, we can see also a mixed signal, either showing a tropical depression or a low-grade tropical storm. So again, still a lack of a signal out here in the MDR of the Atlantic for any development over the next 10 days, including for the Gulf. Now, looking at our Google AI models, this has been going back and forth, left and right for a while now. There's a lot of separation in today's ensemble forecast from the Google DeepMind AI model, showing most of the models here showing a tropical depression or storm in a tightly wound cluster, while other models are showing later development here, meaning that this is also, it's a real signal, but it is potentially kind of a hoax, in other words. So I trust this a lot, but I am going to use this with a lot more caution than what we did back in August. Now, looking at the Google DeepMind generation model, we can also see while there is a lot of ensembles here showing development, they're also showing a lot of weak development here, potentially only a tropical depression in about 10 days. Meaning that the chances of significant development right now are rather low than rather high, which is great news for anyone living around the Leeward Islands, the Dominican Republic, as well as the Southwestern Atlantic. I would not be concerned at all just yet. So now I do want to clear up some confusion because there was some people in my last video saying I am underhyping the hurricane season. I am downplaying the hurricane season. I'm not trying to sound like that at all. It's just what I'm seeing right now does not really ask for a really busy September now. It looks like maybe late September. Again, it keeps getting pushed and pushed and pushed back right now. And honestly, I'm the one that's being a lot more generous and conservative with my forecast for many reasons, because other YouTubers out there are going to, of course, say, oh, we're going to see a lot of development because they're solely relying on the ensembles, which have not really done a great job with this last system. So we have to use this with great caution. So that leads to this post is, why has the Atlantic really been what would you want to call it? Very inactive, very slumber-like loving over the first 9 to 10 days of the season. Well, from Andy Hazelton, he goes into saying, hard to believe we're on pace for one of the quietest Septembers on record. Remember in my X post yesterday that I said, we're done for the hurricane season. I made that and made it sound like a little bit of a joke. I hope you guys don't literally take me seriously. I think we'll see 1 or 2 or 3 more named storms before the season's done. But I'm telling you, I mean, September is not looking so September-ish in the tropics, with way below normal Caribbean shear and a top 10-ish warm MDR that we talked about yesterday, goes to show you how some of the other factors like upper level temperatures, so your tropopause like temperatures, are at record warmth, meaning there's more subsidence, there's more stability problems and drier air that are overwhelming the more classic factors. And then Michael Lowry goes on as saying with this thread right here, and actually, Philip Klocksbach, we'll just go right to that. Where the heck are the Atlantic hurricanes? People are asking. While we don't claim to know exactly why it's gotten so quiet, we have written a discussion on the season to date. some drivers of the lull, as well as some thoughts on the remainder of the season. All right. And so if you go to this link here, you could find a lot of the posting or the big discussion on why this season has been so lackluster. I'm not going to read it word for word because it would take hours for me to get through it, but you can go and check this guy out here. Philip Klocksbog, really good climatologist that does really good with predicting seasons. So right here, with what Michael Lowry said right here, low Caribbean wind shear is one of our best predictors for peak hurricane season activity. The correlation doesn't get much stronger than that. What Clocksbox shows, if a lack of instability is driving this bus, Climo should correct course in a few weeks. So we should see some corrections. Maybe, again, we might see a busy October now. Maybe September this year is not going to be busy at all. And now it comes down to October. And that's late. That's really late in the season. So when you correlate the vertical wind shear, this actually favors a hyperactive hurricane season. And you can see it right here. The blue line, hyperactive, 160 plus ace points. Ace points, I want to make that clear here. The black line is 2025 with the vertical wind shear. So we are below with our range of possible outcomes, either a below average hurricane season, an average, above average, or hyperactive hurricane season. And the way it looks right now, we'll probably land in the below average realm of things with the number of named storms and ace points, which is great. It's good. Now, with that being said, if you did find today's tropical weather outlook and discussion very helpful, detailed, informative, and life-saving, and you haven't been here before and you do like these updates, please don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already. Hit that bell notification icon to get daily tropical weather updates here on the channel, as well as tropical weather live streaming coverage on any landfalling hurricane or tropical storm within a couple of days before making landfall. And also, please like the video and leave a comment in the section below this video, and take a look at my important survey down below this video to vote on a proposed new thumbnail design for the upcoming fall, winter, and spring season here on the YouTube channel. But otherwise, thank you all for watching today's tropical weather outlook and discussion for Tuesday, September the 9th, 2025. Have a great rest of your Tuesday.